I'll never forget the first time I saw Camille. It was one of those sticky summer mornings in Florida, the air thick with salt and sweat. I was at a construction site, overseeing the early stages of a new floating platform hospital, my biggest project yet. My name is Dean. I'm 30 years old, and I live in Key West. I've always been obsessed with the ocean, with building things that can outlast the fury of the sea. That day, I was deep in calculations, headphones in, when a commotion pulled me back to reality. Someone had spotted a stranded dolphin a few yards from the site. I pushed my hard hat back and jogged over, trying to see through the crowd. And there she was, Camille. She was crouched by the water's edge, dark hair pulled into a sloppy ponytail, talking to the dolphin like it was a skittish dog she was trying to coax out from under the porch. She had this calm energy, like she was built for this kind of work. "Keep back, please," she was saying, not even looking up. I don't want it to panic. I stepped forward anyway. "Is there anything I can do?" I asked, trying not to sound too eager. She shot me a quick look. "Do you know anything about marine rescue?" she said, with just enough edge to her voice to make me hesitate. "No," I admitted, "but I can hold things steady." She paused, her eyes narrowing for a second, then she nodded. "All right. Grab that tarp." For the next hour, we worked together, barely speaking except for the occasional command. She was all business, moving fast but careful, explaining everything to me in a low voice. The dolphin finally let out this little huff of air, and together we guided it back into deeper water. When it swam off, I realized I'd been holding my breath the whole time. Camille wiped her forehead with the back of her hand. "Thanks," she said. "I'm Camille, by the way. Marine biologist. I run a rescue program up the coast." "Dean," I said, offering my hand. "Marine architect." She gave a short laugh. "Well, at least we're both ocean people." We ended up at this tiny coffee shack a block away from the dock, both of us still soaked from the water. She ordered a black coffee, no sugar, and I couldn't stop watching the way her fingers drummed on the paper cup. I told her about the floating hospital I was building, how I wanted it to be a place that would actually help people in storms and hurricanes. She told me about her work with sea turtles, the research she was doing on reef recovery. It didn't feel like a first date, but something was happening. When I walked her back to her truck, she hesitated, then said, "Hey, I do a lot of turtle rehab work on weekends. If you're ever up for something new." I didn't even have to think about it. "Yeah," I said, "I'm in." And that was it. Over the next 3 years, we built a life around the water, diving trips, late nights at the lab, even a rescue here and there. Our friends teased us, said we were the ocean's golden couple. And when Camille planned our wedding on a yacht, under the setting sun off the Florida Keys, I believed it. I thought she was my forever. 2 weeks after the wedding, I started noticing things that didn't add up. Camille was suddenly always busy. She'd get home late, talking about turtle rehab emergencies and night rescues that somehow never made it into the updates she used to give me so eagerly. I tried to tell myself she was just adjusting back to work after the wedding madness, that maybe she was tired or overwhelmed. But it felt like a switch had flipped, and I couldn't unsee it. Lila, her coworker at the Marine Center, started coming by more and more. Lila had always been around. She was at the wedding, cracking jokes and drinking too much champagne, but now she was practically living on our couch. "It's just easier for her to crash here after a late shift," Camille said once, her voice too bright. "She's been going through a lot." Lila was a lot. She was one of those people who thrived on drama, always the center of attention. I'd heard about the string of boyfriends she'd burned through, the way she'd twist stories to make herself look like the hero. I'd never paid much attention, but suddenly she was everywhere I turned. In the kitchen at midnight, laughing too loudly with Camille, or sprawled on the couch with her feet on the coffee table like she owned the place. One night, I came home late from the site. This floating hospital was the most ambitious thing I'd ever worked on, and the deadlines were brutal. Camille was in the living room, phone pressed to her ear, talking in low tones. I caught her words as I walked in. "I don't know. I just need to figure it out." "No, I can't tell him yet." She flinched when she saw me, and quickly ended the call. "Work stuff," she said, flashing me a tight smile. "Just some emergency with the sea turtle rehab." I wanted to believe her. God, I wanted to believe her. But it didn't sit right. 2 days later, I was scrolling through social media when I saw a post from the Marine Center. A picture of the very same sea turtle she'd said she was treating. It had already been released back into the ocean. "Congrats to the team," the caption read. "Another successful rehab." I stared at that post for a long time, my phone resting heavy in my palm. Camille had lied. Straight to my face. I tried to tell myself it didn't matter, that maybe she was just confused about which turtle she'd mentioned. But deep down, I knew that was bullshit. Meanwhile, work was eating me alive. I'd never been under so much pressure. This project was massive, a floating hospital that would serve the whole Gulf Coast. There were inspections, endless revisions, fights with engineers about load capacity. I was exhausted all the time, my mind spinning with structural numbers and emergency plans. And every night, I'd come home to Camille and Lila, whispering in corners, their laughter echoing through the house. When I'd ask Camille about the wedding album she'd been working on, she'd just shrug. I haven't had time. Work's been crazy. I kept telling myself she was planning something for our honeymoon, that maybe she was trying to surprise me with a trip. I wanted so badly to believe that. But the truth was starting to slip through the cracks, like water seeping through a damaged hull. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. A couple of weeks later, it all came to a head. I just wrapped up another marathon shift at the site and was dragging myself through the door, craving nothing more than a shower and some quiet. But Camille was waiting for me, standing in the middle of the living room like she'd been rehearsing something. She looked different, pale and jumpy, her hair a mess like she'd been running her hands through it all day. "Dean, can we talk?" she said, her voice tight. "Yeah," I said, sinking into the couch. "What's up?" My mind was still half on the structural load calculations I'd been fighting with all day. I wasn't ready for what she was about to drop. She sat down across from me, her eyes darting around like she was searching for the right words. "I reconnected with Nathan," she blurted out. Nathan, her ex, the one she never really talked about, except to say it was over and she'd moved on. My stomach turned cold. "Reconnected?" I echoed. My voice sounded calm, but my heart was pounding so hard it hurt. "He's back in town," she said quickly, her fingers twisting together. "He's working at the new marine trauma clinic. He reached out and—" "I don't know, Dean. I thought I'd moved on, but seeing him again, it brought everything back." I sat there, feeling like the floor had fallen out from under me. "So what? You're telling me you cheated?" My voice was quiet, but there was steel underneath it. Camille shook her head frantically. No, it's not like that. We haven't done anything physical. But we've been talking. I need to figure out how I feel before I can be fully committed to us." I blinked. "Before you can be committed to us? We're married, Camille. You said your vows on that yacht with the sun setting behind you. What part of that didn't feel committed?" She flinched like I'd slapped her. "I know," she said, her voice breaking. "I know how this sounds. But I need to be sure. I need to know if I'm making the right choice." I stared at her, feeling the weight of those words pressed down on my chest. "So you're asking me to wait around while you figure out if you want to be with me or with him?" She hesitated, then nodded, tears starting to spill over. "I'm sorry. I need time." I took a slow breath. "No," I said finally. "No, Camille. You don't get to use me as a safety net while you chase after your old flame." She looked stunned. "Dean, please. I'm just trying to be honest." I stood up, feeling something cold and final settle inside me. "You don't get to be honest now. You get to pack your things and leave." Her mouth fell open. "What?" "You heard me," I said, my voice calm but deadly. "I'm filing for divorce. Tonight. You can stay with Nathan while you figure things out." She started to sob, but I turned away, heading for the bedroom. I opened the closet and pulled out her suitcase, setting it on the bed without a word. She didn't fight me. She just started packing, sniffling, and wiping her nose like she couldn't believe this was really happening. When she finally left, she didn't look back. I watched her drive away, the taillights disappearing down the street. And for the first time in weeks, the house was silent. I knew it wouldn't be easy, but in that quiet, I felt something else too, relief. The first crack of light in a stormy sky. The first few days after Camille left were a blur. I didn't sleep much. I kept replaying that night in my head. Her confession, the way she looked at me like I was supposed to understand. I spent hours sitting on the couch, just listening to the quiet house and wondering how everything could fall apart so fast. I called in sick for the first time in years. Mason, my best friend and project lead at the firm, came over that night with a six-pack. "Man, you look like hell," he said, dropping onto the couch beside me. "I know," I said. My voice was flat, but there was something almost comforting in admitting it out loud. "I feel like hell too." Mason didn't push. He cracked open a beer and let me sit there in silence. After a while, he said, "You know, Dean, you've been carrying her weight for a long time. Maybe it's time to let her carry her own for once." That stuck with me. The next day, I started packing up the wedding gifts, boxes of crystal and monogram towels that felt like artifacts from someone else's life. I called the bank and had our joint accounts frozen. I didn't want to think about her using my money to figure out her unresolved feelings. A couple of days later, I was at the kitchen table, sorting through bills, when someone knocked at the door. It was Gregor, Camille's dad. He was ex-military, broad-shouldered and stoic, the kind of man who could make a room go silent just by walking in. "Can I come in?" he asked. I hesitated, then nodded. We sat down at the kitchen table, the same one where Camille and I used to have dinner. Gregor's eyes were hard, but there was something else there too, something almost gentle. "I'm not here to scold you," he said gruffly. "I just wanted you to know. I think you did the right thing." I blinked at him. "You do?" He nodded. "Nathan, he's not who she thinks he is. She doesn't know he cheated on her years ago. I only found out after the fact, never told her. Thought it wasn't my place. But maybe she deserves to know what kind of man she's chasing." I let out a long breath. Gregor reached across the table, resting his big hand on my shoulder. "I'm sorry, Dean, for everything. She's my daughter, but she messed up. Don't let this break you." He left after that, and I just sat there, staring at the empty seat across from me. Camille had spent so long building her perfect ocean rescue fantasy, and now it was unraveling faster than I could keep up. Mason called that night, checking in. "You good?" he asked. "Not really," I said honestly. "But I'm getting there." "Then that's good enough," he said. "You're stronger than you think." And for the first time in weeks, I believed it. Because as I packed away the last of Camille's things and called my lawyer to finalize the paperwork, I realized I was done letting her mistakes define me. This was my life again, and I was going to rebuild it on my terms. A couple weeks after Camille left, I was finally starting to feel normal again. The house was quiet, my work was steady, and I wasn't waking up every morning with that heavy feeling in my chest. But just as I was beginning to put her behind me, the truth about Lila came slithering out. It was Theo, Camille's younger brother and an intern at my firm, who told me. He showed up at my office one afternoon, looking uneasy. "You got a minute?" he asked. I waved him in. "Dean, there's something you need to know," he said, his voice low. "Lila, she's been feeding Camille all sorts of crap about you. She's been telling Camille that you're too focused on work, that you don't care about her anymore. She even said you were having an affair with one of the engineers." I let out a humorless laugh. "An affair?" "Jesus, Theo." But I could tell by the look on his face that this wasn't a joke. "It gets worse," he said. "Lila's been seeing Nathan behind Camille's back. She's the one who told Camille that Nathan was back in town. I think she wanted to break you two up so she could have him for herself." I leaned back in my chair, trying to process it all. The pieces started to click together, the late-night whispers, the way Lila always seemed to know exactly what to say to make Camille doubt me. It wasn't just Camille's affair. It was a setup. "Why are you telling me this?" I asked him finally. Theo's jaw tightened. "Because you deserve to know. And because, well, Lila's been bragging about it at the Marine Center. She thinks it's hilarious. But everyone's starting to see through her." A few days later, the story broke wide open. Lila was caught having lunch with Nathan. Theo snapped a picture and sent it to me. She was laughing, leaning across the table like she didn't have a care in the world. Camille was nowhere in sight. Meanwhile, Camille's social media had turned into this weird mess of self-love posts. Pictures of her in yoga poses on the beach, captions about finding herself and healing. It was like she was trying to rebrand herself as the victim in her own story. I didn't say anything to Camille. I didn't have to. The news was already spreading. The Marine Center's director suspended Lila pending an investigation, and Camille's carefully curated image was starting to crack. Through it all, I focused on my work. The floating hospital project was finally getting noticed. I was invited to present it at a conference in Dubai. It was the opportunity of a lifetime, and for once, I wasn't thinking about what Camille would think. I was thinking about what I wanted. One evening, Mason stopped by, grinning. "Heard you're going international," he said, clapping me on the back. "About damn time." "Yeah," I said, feeling a smile spread across my face. About damn time. As for Lila, she didn't go down quietly. Word got out that she'd been manipulating everyone around her, and she was forced to step back from her job. Camille's brother kept me in the loop, sending me updates on the mess. And with each new revelation, I felt lighter. Because the thing about snakes is, once you see them for what they are, they can't hurt you anymore. And as I packed my bags for Dubai, I realized I wasn't just leaving Camille and Lila behind. I was leaving behind a whole chapter of my life that no longer served me. Camille's perfect little world started to fall apart faster than I expected. It happened at a work gala she'd organized for Nathan, some fancy fundraising dinner for marine conservation. Camille had poured everything into planning it, from the elaborate centerpieces to the carefully curated guest list. She was always good at making things look perfect. But that night, it all went to hell. It started with a single message. Lila, apparently feeling bold, sent a flirty text to Nathan's burner phone, right in the middle of the event. Nathan was up on stage, giving some self-important speech about saving the oceans, when his phone buzzed in his pocket. He pulled it out, read the message, and his face went pale. I wasn't there, but Theo was. He'd been helping with the event, and he caught everything. He told me later how the whole room fell quiet when Camille read that text over Nathan's shoulder. The color drained from her face, her perfect smile frozen in place. "What's this?" she asked him, her voice like ice. Nathan tried to brush it off, but Lila didn't give him a chance. She stepped forward, her expression smug. "At least I waited until he was single," she said, her voice loud enough for everyone to hear. The whole room went dead silent. Camille's face crumpled. She looked at Nathan, then at Lila, like she couldn't believe what she was hearing. And in that moment, whatever story she'd been telling herself about them fell apart. Theo told me later that it was like watching a train wreck in slow motion. Camille was shaking, tears starting to spill over as she turned on Nathan. "You've been with her this whole time?" she demanded, her voice cracking. Nathan tried to minimize it. "Camille, it's not what you think." But Lila wasn't done. She leaned in closer, her voice dripping with poison. "Oh, it's exactly what she thinks. And now everyone knows." It was chaos after that. People were whispering, some of the donors quietly excusing themselves. Camille's boss tried to pull her aside, but she was too far gone, sobbing, yelling, demanding answers that Nathan wouldn't give. Theo, ever the loyal brother, recorded the whole thing. He sent me the video later that night. Camille, in her designer dress, mascara running down her face, shouting at Nathan while Lila just smirked in the background. It wasn't pretty, but it was real. The fallout was immediate. Camille and Lila were both suspended from the Marine Center while the board sorted through the mess. Nathan, ever the opportunist, moved on quickly. He was seen with a Marine nurse a week later, smiling like none of it mattered. As for Camille, she retreated. She stopped posting her yoga selfies, stopped pretending everything was fine. Theo told me she was staying with her parents, trying to figure out what to do next. But I didn't care anymore. I had my own life to build, and watching her world collapse wasn't something I needed to be part of. The last thing Theo said to me about it? She finally saw what she really meant to them. And I think that was the cruelest cut of all. By the time summer rolled around, I was ready to move on. My project in Dubai was taking shape faster than I ever imagined, and my name was on every blueprint, every proposal. I felt like I was finally building something that belonged entirely to me. Packing up my place was weirdly satisfying. I rented out the condo within days. It seemed like everyone wanted a piece of oceanfront living. I sold off the furniture I didn't care about and kept only what I'd actually chosen myself. For the first time in years, every decision felt like mine. Mason threw me a farewell party at this little rooftop bar we loved. He invited half the firm, and even Theo showed up. He'd gotten promoted, finally out of the shadow of being Camille's little brother, and he looked happier than I'd ever seen him. "Man, I still can't believe you're leaving," Mason said, clinking his glass against mine. "But Dubai's gonna be lucky to have you." "Thanks," I said, feeling that weight lift a little more. Sarah showed up halfway through the night. She was a design architect I'd met through the project, brilliant, funny, the kind of woman who didn't need to prove anything to anyone. She found me at the bar and gave me a quick hug. "So this is your big send-off," she teased. "Not too shabby. There's an open seat if you're up for it," I said. She laughed, tilting her head. "We'll see." I felt that flicker of something between us. Not the instant spark I'd felt with Camille, but something steadier, something real. And in that moment, I realized I was finally ready to start over. Of course, Camille wasn't done trying to rewrite the ending. Halfway through the party, she showed up, like some ghost from a life I'd already left behind. She was wearing the same dress she'd worn on our first date, her eyes already red from crying. "Dean," she started, her voice breaking. "Please, can we talk?" I saw Mason and Theo tense, but I shook my head. "Not tonight, Camille." She reached out, tears spilling over. I know I messed up, but I've been working on myself. I'm in therapy now, I swear. I need you to hear me out. I looked at her, really looked, and for the first time, I didn't feel anger. I just felt done. I'm glad you're getting help, I said, my voice calm. But this isn't about us anymore. This is about me. And you're not part of it. She sobbed, trying to push past Mason, but security stepped in. Theo, standing close by, didn't flinch. You need to leave, Camille, he said quietly. It's over. As she was escorted out, I caught sight of Nathan across the street, arm in arm with that Marine nurse. He didn't even look at Camille, just kept walking like she was nothing more than a memory. And maybe that's all she was now, a memory I didn't need to carry anymore. Sarah leaned closer, her voice low. You okay? She asked. I nodded, feeling the last of that old weight slip away. Yeah, I said. I really am. We stayed out late that night, laughing and sharing stories, the city lights of Miami flickering around us. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I was running from something. I felt like I was moving towards something better. The morning I left for Dubai was one of those bright, cloudless days where everything felt brand new. Mason offered to drive me to the airport, and Theo insisted on tagging along. Someone's got to make sure you actually get on that plane, he said with a grin. We pulled up to the terminal, and Mason gave me a long look. You sure about this? He asked. I'm sure, I said, gripping my passport. My heart was steady. My mind was clear. For the first time in months, I felt like I was exactly where I was supposed to be. We unloaded my bags, and Mason clapped me on the back. We'll see you in a few weeks, he said. I'm telling you, Dubai's not going to know what hit it. Theo just shook his head. Proud of you, man, he said. Go build your dream. I was about to say something back when I heard a familiar voice behind me. Dean. I turned and saw her, Camille, standing by the curb, her hair pulled back in a messy ponytail, her face blotchy from crying. She had a suitcase by her side and a thick scrapbook clutched to her chest. Camille, what are you doing here? I asked. My voice was calm, but my heart sank a little. She took a shaky breath. I'm coming with you, she said. I bought a ticket. We can start over, Dean. I know I messed up, but we can fix it. I blinked, stunned. You're not coming with me. She held up the scrapbook like it was proof of something. Look at all of this, she pleaded, flipping through the pages. Every memory, every trip. This is us, Dean. We can't just throw it away. I didn't even look at the book. I just shook my head. Camille, I'm done, I said quietly. I've been done for a long time. Her eyes filled with tears. Please, Dean, please. I know I was selfish, but I've changed. I swear I have. I felt a flicker of pity, but it passed as quickly as it came. I turned to see Gregor standing a few feet away, arms crossed over his chest. He'd come too, but not to support her. Dean's right, Gregor said, his voice firm. You need to stop this, Camille. It's over. She turned to him, tears streaking down her cheeks. Dad, please. He shook his head. No, Camille. You can't keep doing this. You can't keep trying to pull him back just because you're scared of moving on. I turned away from them, checked my phone for my boarding pass. That was when Sarah showed up, pulling her carry-on behind her, a calm smile on her face. She looked at Camille and then at me, and without a word, she walked over and slipped her hand into mine. Camille let out a sob. Who is she? She demanded, her voice trembling. I didn't answer. I didn't know her that. Gregor stepped forward, his hand on Camille's shoulder. Let's go, Camille, he said quietly. It's time. She fought him at first, but he didn't budge. Eventually, she let him pull her away, still clutching that scrapbook like it could change what was already done. Sarah turned to me, her eyes warm. Ready? She asked softly. I nodded. Yeah, I said, feeling a weight lift off my chest. Let's go. As we walked toward security, I didn't look back. Theo fell in step beside us, grinning like he'd just watched the final scene of a movie. Guess she finally got the message, he said. Mason laughed. About time. We made it through security, and I took one last look at the bright Florida sky. I could feel the past pulling at me, but it wasn't strong enough to hold me back anymore. And as we boarded that flight, I knew one thing for sure. I was finally free, ready to leave everything that didn't serve me behind. And for the first time in a long time, I was excited for what lay ahead. The flight to Dubai was long, but for the first time in forever, I didn't mind. Sarah and I spent hours talking about architecture, about travel, about the new project. It felt so easy, so natural. Every time she laughed, I felt that old heaviness slip away a little more. When we finally landed, the city was waking up. The skyline shimmered in the early morning light, the glass towers reflecting the sun like a promise. As we stepped off the plane, I took a deep breath, the warm air filling my lungs. This was it, a new beginning. My apartment was everything I'd hoped for. Floor-to-ceiling windows with a view of the harbor, a sleek kitchen that looked like it had been lifted from the pages of a magazine. I dropped my bags and just stood there for a moment, letting it all sink in. This was mine. All of it. Sarah laughed when she saw me just standing there. "You look like a kid on Christmas morning," she teased. "Feels like it," I said. "Like I finally made it." She smiled. "You did." And I believed her. A few days later, Mason and Theo joined me. Mason had taken a consulting job on a new sustainable floating city project, and Theo had been offered a position in the international division. We were all moving forward together. No more secrets, no more ghosts. Just clean slates and new plans. Camille, I heard, had quit her job at the Marine Center. She'd moved back in with her parents, and according to Theo, she was finally in therapy. Good for her, I thought. But I didn't dwell on it. Her story wasn't mine anymore. One night, I found myself standing on the balcony, staring out at the endless sea of lights. I thought about everything I'd lost, everything I'd walked away from. The betrayal, the heartbreak, the way I'd let someone else's chaos become my normal. It had almost broken me. Almost. But standing there, with the city buzzing below and the stars above, I realized something. The betrayal wasn't the end of my story. It was the start of something better. Stronger. I learned what it meant to stand up for myself. To say, no more, and mean it. Sarah stepped out onto the balcony, her hair pulled back in a simple ponytail, her eyes bright. She didn't say anything. She didn't have to. She just slipped her hand into mine, and for the first time, I felt like I wasn't carrying it all alone. "This is your life now," she said softly, as if reading my thoughts. "And it's only going to get better." I nodded, feeling a smile spread across my face. "Yeah," I said. "It really is." And as the city stretched out before me, I knew she was right. I'd left behind everything that didn't belong, everything that held me back. And in its place, I had something better, a future I was finally excited to claim as my own.